Okay, hopefully you should be able to hear me and see me as well. Welcome everybody. Hopefully should have a couple of minutes late. We've just been waiting for a few people with some technical problems to log in. Thank you all for joining. So welcome to the webinar, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us and to look at our presentation regarding the upcoming changes from Autodesk. So to introduce myself, so my name is Simon Brand. I'm one of the sales managers here at Man & Machine. Obviously, these changes affect quite a few of our customers and across a number of divisions that makes sense for us all to be involved. I've been working with Autodesk for many years and have seen lots of changes over the years. So hopefully I should have enough experience to answer any of your questions. Before we get started, just a quick disclaimer, if you like. So everything I'm about to discuss and to announce and show you is essentially our interpretation of the announcements from Autodesk. And although we are the largest reseller in Europe, these decisions aren't actually our decisions, they're Autodesk decisions, so please don't shoot the messenger. And we're still waiting on clarification on a few points and pricing details. So as soon as we have any more information, we'll be happy to share it with you. It was our intention from this webinar to relay the information we have and to be as open, as transparent as we always are. So we're going to take you through three things and main actions today. The presentation I've got for you should last about half an hour. I know there are going to be lots and lots of questions from the announcements, and what I'll do is after the presentation is to open the floor up to questions. If you do have questions, there is a questions box in the GoToWebinar application that you can use to type your questions. I have a few colleagues on the line helping me hopefully answer those questions if we're still presenting, but please don't hold back. Please ask your questions and we'll answer them as soon as we can. If we can't answer your questions, or if we have too many for this the set time session that we have today, then we will come back to you and we will answer them your specific question direct to you. So the three main areas and actions we're going to be looking at today. So for those of you that already know Man & Machine, you already know that we always strive to provide the best service, give the best advice, and hopefully the best content for all of our customers. But I'm going to run through a brief introduction to Man & Machine for anyone on the call that doesn't already know who we are. We've also recently launched or relaunched a new website that we're really proud of. Really proud of the navigation and the content on there. So I want to just introduce you. I want to take the opportunity to introduce you to our new website. Of course, the main reason why you're all here is to understand a little bit more about how Autodesk are going to transition to a true software as a service company, and how this affects you and your future sort of software usage. The truth is there have been a number of complex and rather confusing and conflicting information coming out from Autodesk and from the channel. And we see our role as the largest reseller as you know, really to be as transparent and as open as possible with you, our customers. But like I said, I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions. I'm sure the presentation is going to bring even more questions. So please don't hold back and please ask your questions. But of course, the final call to action after this call is reach out to us. You know, all of our sales team, we've been very strict on doing internal training for all of our sales team, and they'd be more than happy to come to you direct to look at how the changes specifically affect you and how to help you sort of navigate the minefield of these Autodesk changes. We'll be happy to do discovery sessions with you all on a one-to-one basis, so please reach out after this call. To introduce you to Man & Machine, if you don't already know us, so we're part of München Maschine Group. So we've been trading for about 30 years with Autodesk. We're the largest platinum reseller across Europe with headquarters in Munich, in Germany. We're sometimes the largest in the world. It really just depends on the exchange rate. We've got hundreds of thousands of installed seats of Autodesk software, and we're specialists in all things Autodesk. So Autodesk is the main software solution that we provide, but we actually also develop our own software applications. We've found that there are certain areas around BIM or around machining, CAM, or configuration tools where some customers need a little bit more solutions. So we have our own software development team that are able to develop and sell applications that are specific for these points. We've also teamed up with a number of other, in the UK, a number of other software vendors that complement Autodesk portfolio, really allowing us to offer a complete solution to our customers. And it's allowed us to get lots of accreditations, and we help the accredited bodies to write training courses and material and certification programs. So our new website, so we've recently launched this new website, lots of useful content, easy navigation straight from the home page. We're really, really proud of this website. Please, I'd encourage you all on the call to, after this call, to bookmark our website and to use it as a useful source of information. We're really proud of it. We've got a huge library on there. One of the key features on there, a huge library of blogs, useful tips and tricks, a whole host of topics that are all searchable. Really is a great source of information for you. And I think the blogs currently written by our technical team are updated daily. So please use this as a useful source of information. And straight from the home page, we have an events page where you can look at future events, seminars or webinars, and register directly from this page. We host 2 webinars monthly, just like this one, where we present, a particular topic or a particular piece of software, and really helps our customers to keep up to date with the latest features, or perhaps understand a bit more about a certain topic. So, really useful, and hopefully not too much out of your Friday. Normally on a Friday, our ones are. And we've also recently updated a new promotions and pricing announcements page. So this is a really useful source of information around anything to do with Autodesk changes, promotions, man and machine promotions, and we try and keep this updated as often as possible. Of course, we have tried to include as much information on this page about the changes we're about to go through. So after this, I suggest you all, if anything I say doesn't make sense or you have any more questions, please navigate. This will be a useful source of information. But ultimately, someone asked me the other day, what is our Man and Machines goal as a business? What are we trying to do? But ultimately, the way I see it, our goal is to really help you, our customers, to design and create better products. Now, whether that's a piece of industrial machinery or a component or indeed a building, we want to help you to improve the design of those products. And ultimately, we want to help you sell more of those products, whether that's with product configurations or improved visualization. And we want to help you to sell more of the things that you create. But ultimately, it's all about trying to help you, our customers, to create more profit, and keep the profits rolling in, and to improving as they go forward. That is our ultimate goal as Man and Machine. But the world is changing, and I guess that the way that we access and manage our software needs to evolve with it. So to keep up to date with the demands and requirements of the customers, Autodesk have continued over the years to analyze and evolve their licensing model to try and suit today's model as well as the future model. So we've been on a journey from perpetual licensing to term-based licensing for 4 years now. So yes, the subscription model started last leap year, but the next evolution is now upon us. So the needs of a true software as a service business, and what we all expect from a software as a service business, needs to evolve. Now, Autodesk has a vision to become a true SaaS company, but of course, the customers of a SaaS company typically expect more from a SaaS company. More analytics, more flexibility, more choice, more control of the software that they have and manage, and in order to try and maximize efficiency. So Autodesk are transitioning their business model from the old confusing model based upon FlexLM technology. And for those of you that have been around for a while will know that FlexLM technology is very old technology, which is based on serial numbers and product keys, which, to be frank, have always been one of the largest causes of calls to our support desk over the years, ever since I've been involved. We want to move to a much simpler world, which is simply based on people, on users, on named users. And the benefit really for you, the customers, is that potentially you're going to have a bit more visibility on your user requirements in terms of who needs access to what. So being able to analyze whether you have the right number of licenses and ultimately minimize your costs going forward. Users themselves hopefully are going to be able to have a much more efficient workflow with access to the right software wherever they are, whether that's at home, on site, or on the shop floor. And the end goal, the end vision, is to really help the time, to minimize the time it takes for IT or any of you on the call today to manage things like license files and keep track of serial numbers. So to put that in context, as it is at the moment in your businesses, if you have a number of users and one of those users need access to some Autodesk software, you have a number of key decisions to make and work with your reseller to make those decisions. So you have to decide, of course, which product or collection they need access to. You have to decide the term length, whether that's a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract. And you have to decide the user access requirements, where they need access, how often they need access. And ultimately, it's always come down to the key decision around cost and, I guess, risk at that given time. What many customers end up with down the line is a huge tangled mess, which causes many customers, quite frankly, a headache to keep track of user requirements and changes and constant renewals. I went to see a client last year, it was actually. I went to see a client last year that had quite a few licenses of Autodesk software, but they had 57 different Autodesk contracts. Now that means 57 renewal dates throughout the year, and 57 orders, and 57 points in the year where that customer needed to consult with me to make decisions about their requirements then and in the future. It's a huge overhead and not really in line with my earlier statement around trying to make you, our customers, more profitable. So Autodesk want to make life easier and more manageable for all of our customers and users. So we're continuing the transition to a SaaS-based company by moving all customers to named user access. So let's have a look at what's actually changing. What we want to move towards is a much simpler world where software is simply assigned to named users via Autodesk accounts, the portal, so that users have greater access, greater security, and management have less management overhead and more confidence that the user always has the right access to the right software at the right time wherever they are. Now here are the announcements. So for the past 4 years, we've been on this journey towards subscription-based, term-based software. I guess many of you on this call will have migrated or switched from the old perpetual licensing to from maintenance plan to subscription pricing. But these recent announcements mark Autodesk the next stage, the next transition. So Autodesk are going to terminate or retire all remaining maintenance plan renewals from the 7th of May 2021, the 16th of April this year, if you're using any of the old creation suites, building design suite, product design suite, infrastructure suite, factory suite. I think there were 7 suites. But they will be retired. Renewals of maintenance of these products will be retired on the 16th of April this year. So after that date, customers, you'll no longer be able to renew maintenance on these products. Of course, customers with perpetual licenses can always drop off maintenance and continue to run the last entitled version. So, you know, if we're on one of the creation suites and 2021 is released and you drop off maintenance, that will be your last version that you're entitled to. And as per your license agreement, once you're off maintenance, you lose things like previous version support, future versions, home user licenses, and extra territory rights. But of course, you can drop off maintenance and continue with perpetual licensing. And as part of the transition to this named user model, Autodesk will retire multi-user licenses on the 7th of May 2021. Basically, Autodesk have analysed customers with multi-user licenses, and it's confirmed that on average, each license is only accessed by 2 people. So what they're going to do regarding maintenance plan, network licenses or multi-user licenses, we've got an offer for you that only at your first renewal after the 7th of May this year, people with multi-user licenses or network licenses will be able to trade these in for 2 named user licenses at a similar price. Now you need to take note of the word only, or the words only at first renewal. In other words, if you've got a multi-user AEC collection, say ending in December or something like that, you will only receive the 2-for-1 offer at that renewal, i.e. this December. Also, if you're currently on a longer term, so if you did a 3-year multi-user renewal, say last year, and you actually don't renew until 2022 perhaps, then that is classed as your first renewal and our first opportunity, first and only opportunity to trade that in for the 2-for-1. Of course, if your renewal date is before May next year and you're on a multi-user license, of course you can still renew it for 1 year only. But of course, your second renewal, so next year in 2022, you won't be able to do the 2-for-1 trade-in because that will be your second renewal. You will only be offered a 1-for-1 trade-in. So it is really, really important that if you are currently using multi-user licenses, that at your next renewal date, you consider the 2-for-1 trade-in. Also, at the time of your trade-in, you're going to be able to choose whether or not you want to upgrade that license to an industry collection. So suites, of course, they're only going to be able to go to a collection. But say you've got a single product, AutoCAD or Inventor or Revit perhaps, you're going to be able to choose when you trade in whether you either trade into the 2 of the same product or 2 collections. So it is worth considering not only your user requirements now, but also, you know, in the coming years as well. So let's look at a few examples, license by license type. So if you're currently running single user subscriptions, then currently, well, there isn't a lot of change for you because you're already used to assigning your software to your users via Autodesk accounts, the portal where you log into, set your users up and assign software to. The only thing that is changing for single user licenses is we are going to see approximately a 5% pricing increase for new licenses, not renewals. The renewals will remain the same, just new licenses in a couple of weeks' time. What I'd suggest, if you are considering buying new licenses, new single user licenses in the short term, it might be worth getting in touch before this date. Remember, we can always forward start date a license, so you potentially could order it from us on the 24th of March at the current prices, but actually the license, we could delay the start of that license by 30 days, so it wouldn't actually start until the 24th of April. And of course, we can always co-terminate that into any existing contracts to make future renewals easier to manage. So for maintenance plan, quite a lot is changing. So we've already announced that maintenance plan renewals will end on the 7th of May next year, or of course the 16th of April this year if you're running any of the old design or creation suites. So after this date, there'll be no renewals and there'll be no future upgrades or versions of any maintenance plan version software. So again, just to reiterate, if you don't, if you don't decide not to take the 2-for-1 and you stay on your maintenance license off maintenance and you don't renew, you of course are entitled to the last version only, so no previous version, only the last version. And of course you would lose extra territory rights, the ability to take the license out of the country, or home user licensing, or previous or future upgrades. Of course, over the last 4 years, most customers have converted maintenance plan licenses from the maintenance to subscription via what we call the M2S program. So they're already benefiting from the grandfathered or sort of guaranteed locked-in pricing until at least 2028. But that program is going to end on the 7th of May this year. And also, an extra kick in the teeth, there'll also be a 20% increase on any remaining maintenance plan renewals for this last remaining year. Do remember, though, that customers always have the ability to renew or switch or trade in up to 90 days before their actual renewal dates, with no effect on their license end dates. So basically what that means is, if you do still have maintenance plan licenses that ends, say, up to 90 days after the 6th of May, so that's the 3rd of August, it might be worth considering ordering an M2S before the 6th of May in order to get the best possible future renewal rates. Because what's going to replace the M2S program for 1 year only on maintenance licenses is what we call the maintenance trade-in. So at your next renewal date between the 7th of May this year and the 6th of May next year, customers will be able to trade in their licenses for either 1 or 2, depending on whether they're standalone or network licenses, either similar product or collection. And you can see the pricing will be based upon your maintenance renewal for last year, so 2019. So what's changing for multi-user subscriptions? So the ability to renew multi-user subscriptions, all multi-user subscriptions, will end on the 6th of May 2021. We've already seen the end of 2- and 3-year renewals earlier last month. So now all 2- and 3-year multi-user licenses are only able to be renewed, obviously if it's before the 21st of the 7th of May next year, only are able to renew on a 1-year term. So if you do have licenses that I'm just going to turn my webcam off. For those of you that didn't want to see me anymore, I forgot it was on, to be honest. So yes, so you'll only be able to renew maintenance plan licenses for a 1-year term up until the 7th of May 2021. And in a few months' time, so in the 7th of May this year, new licenses of multi-user licenses are going to end as well. So exactly the same as before. If you want to purchase new multi-user licenses on a 1-year term, you must do it before the 6th of May this year. Again, we can offer the 30-day deferred start date of those licenses, but of course that will end on the 6th of May this year. So at your first renewal point for multi-user licenses, and your first renewal point only, you're going to have the option of a 2-for-1 trade-in. Of course, if you don't take the 2-for-1 trade-in and instead choose to renew for 1 more year, of course that's fine, but of course your next renewal will be classed as your second renewal point, and you will only be offered a 1-for-1 trade-in. And again, just to reiterate, if your renewal is not for a little while, then that still counts as your first renewal. So worth considering your next renewal point, whether you want 2-for-1. There are some products, however, excluded from this multi-user trade-in. They are still affected by the maintenance plan, end of maintenance plan, but if you're using multi-user licenses on any of these products, then currently you're still able to renew as is. So let's look at a few examples and pricing examples, how this will actually be broken down. If you're currently running, let's say, you're running 5 multi-user AutoCAD, including specialized toolset subscriptions. Apologies, this is in dollars. We're still waiting for confirmed pricing in UK pounds and euros, but the information is that it's going to be very similar. But just to give you a flavor of the pricing that we're going to be looking at, if you're in America and you're currently subscribing to 5 multi-user AutoCAD, including specialized toolsets, you're currently paying $14,100. At the time of renewal, you're going to be able to switch that or trade that in, to 10 named user subscriptions of exactly the same product for exactly the same price. Similarly, if you've done a M2S or a maintenance to subscription anytime in the last 3 years, then you're on the grandfathered pricing, so you're currently paying a lot less than the standard subscription price. Again, at the time of renewal, you're going to be able to trade that in for 10 named user licenses for exactly the same price. If you're running standalone maintenance, so the note here is these are standalone licenses. If you're running standalone AutoCAD maintenance seats, because it's standalone, it's not a 2-for-1 trade-in, it's a 1-for-1 trade-in, so 5 including specialized tool sets. The difference in pricing between these two products is because it's going from standard AutoCAD to AutoCAD including specialized tool sets. Exactly the same with something like the AEC collection. So if you've got 5 multi-user subscription AEC collections, you're currently paying $21,200. At the time of renewal, you can trade that in for 10 AEC collection named user subscriptions for exactly the same price. And exactly the same, just to highlight the similarity, if you're running 5 M2S AEC collections, you're currently paying just under $5,925. You're going to be able to trade that in for 10 AEC named user subscriptions. And as with maintenance to subscription, the M2S, Autodesk have confirmed and offered some reassuring future pricing announcements for anyone that does the 2-for-1 trade-in. We're only going to see an inflation level price increases in the future, and it's going to be a maximum of 5% every other year in odd years. Of course, the caveat to this is subject to exchange rate fluctuations, and that's because Autodesk do operate a global pricing strategy. So meaning if the pound drastically changes, it may have an effect on future price increases, but it's going to be there or thereabouts in the same ballpark. So from the 7th of June, so we're waiting for a bit more confirmation on pricing and functionality here, but from the 7th of June this year, Autodesk are going to launch plans. The aim is to give customers and users improved flexibility and security and analytics aimed at sort of larger enterprise level customers. When you do the trade-in, it's as standard license, and you're going to be able to add premium level at a later date. But watch this space, and please follow our website for more details, and we will put it on publish as soon as we have it. Now, we know that these are quite complex changes, and they affect a lot of our customers, and perhaps a lot of our customers are affected by different areas of these changes. So what we've done on our pricing, promotions and pricing announcements page of our new website, which you can get to at manamachine.co.uk, straight from the homepage, what we've tried to do is to highlight 9 of the most important things to understand, also including the legacy trade-in. So just as a gentle reminder, if you previously owned any old maintenance licenses that are off maintenance now, there is currently until the end of April, the 24th of April, a 25% discount for new subscriptions that we can use. What we've tried to do on our page is to not only document the announcements, but also try and offer some advice, similarly to what I've tried to explain here on this call. But you're probably expected by more than one area. You might have multiple options. What I'd encourage you all to do is to let us help you navigate the best option for you, the personalized solution. Our team fully understands this. We're more than happy to do discovery meetings with you to find out exactly what you've got now and what the options are, and try and find the best options for you. All of our team are encouraged to always find the right solution for you, whatever that may be. Man and Machine are all over social media, so we're all very active on these platforms, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter. If you subscribe to any of these social media platforms, please follow us. I'd encourage you. We'll be making future announcements as soon as we get them on these channels. And we also mentioned earlier we run future webinars. And we have a series of monthly webinars for manufacturing side of our business as well as the architectural side of our business. If any of these topics are interesting and you've got half an hour on a Friday to log in and learn more about any of these topics, please visit the events page on our website and register for these events. But what's next? Like I said, please reach out to us. So myself and Nathan Brownsfield, my colleague, the sales managers here, we'd be more than happy to arrange meetings to come and see you to discuss these changes and how they affect you personally. And please drop us a line. Now, that's pretty much all the end of my presentation today. I'm sure we've got questions that have come in. Obviously, I've been talking for quite a while, and I want to now open it up. If you have any questions, please write them in the questions box, and I will try and answer them while we're here. Robin, have we had any questions come in?
Hey Simon, hi everyone. Thanks for listening with us today. I hope the session's been informative. First of all, a number of questions, Simon, which I've tried to grab and answer as soon as they've come in. Obviously, some concern and some very important queries about the changes which people are raising. I guess the main point I want to push first of all is some of you have asked some very specific questions about your environment or about your infrastructure or about the fact that you're using Citrix licenses. And I think for all of those events, a number of you are already customers of ours. We already have relationships with you. And for those of you that we do already have relationships with, absolutely we will be in touch to discuss those very specific questions in due course. For those of you that maybe we don't have relationships with at present, then by all means get in touch and let us know how we can get in touch so that we can talk through those concerns directly. So there are some further questions which we haven't yet got around to answering. So I guess rather than sitting and typing those out, we'll go through and answer those directly now. So firstly, a couple of you asking if we're going to share the webinar. So the webinar is being recorded. And once we've had a chance to trim the unnecessary sections, we will be uploading and sharing that via our usual channels, which will likely be our social media sites and on our website. So keep your eyes peeled on the new website for that going up on there. a question that is explaining about or asking about having a single contract with 4 seats, multi-user. This is from Norman. So will we be able to renew these for the 8 seats at the same price at first renewal? Have you got an answer for that one, Simon?
Yeah, so we are still waiting for confirmed pricing, but the way we understand it is if you have 4 network or multi-user licenses currently, at the point of your renewal, you're going to be able to trade them in for 8 named user licenses for there or thereabouts similar price to what you would pay for your renewal. So yes, it'll be at a similar price to what you either renew them or trade them in for double the number of licenses. Yes. Again, we will have to wait for the specifics, the price list and the information from Autodesk with the confirmed pricing, but what we're being told at the moment and the examples we're being given is it will be a similar, there or thereabouts, a similar price.
Perfect. Thank you, Simon. Another couple of queries that are maybe more technical, which I guess are perfect for me to answer. So we've had a few concerns about the requirements for infrastructure and internet connectivity for the single user licenses. So a single user requires a ping at least once every 14 days to the Autodesk server. Again, for those of you that have asked specific questions, then obviously we can take that offline and get in touch. But with the end of multi-user licenses, there will need to be a discussion about what that means with the single user needing to ping the Autodesk server at least once every 14 days. A further question we had was about educational licenses. Obviously, education is slightly different because the licenses are all provided free of charge to both tutors and students, as well as educational establishments. And whilst I don't think we've had any specific details about the education licenses, the likelihood, in my opinion, is that all of those licenses will be driven via the education community, which all students and tutors can access at the moment and have been able to access for probably the past 10 plus years for software free of charge. That's any piece of Autodesk software, all single user licensing without any issues. So it will likely follow the trends of the likes of Fusion 360, where both tutors and students will sign up for their own licenses and be able to use them at home for home study and learning, as well as in the college for schools and university for their working sessions. A few more questions coming in.
Questions come in from. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
I was just going. Oh, okay. I just going to see a question that's just come in right then, which is the 2-for-1 offer. Just to confirm, the question was: is this just for the first year, or is it ongoing? The answer is it will be ongoing. So when you take the 2-for-1, as long as you continue to renew year on year on year on year, it will still be 2 licenses. And it's the confirmed pricing as well. So it will stay at that pricing, just rising with inflation, 5% every other year.
Question from Owen about any specific changing for single user subscriptions. I guess the main topic of this webinar is the changes around the both the multi-user licensing being retired and the fact that we're changing from serial number based licenses to user based licenses. So really, dependent on when your single user subscription was taken out, if it is a recent subscription, then you will already likely be working on the new licensing model anyway, so no change. If it's a traditional standalone license that was maybe on maintenance plan and has gone up through the years into a subscription, it might be that you still have an active serial number that is being used in the back end. But again, the way that you'll be activating that single user license will be via a user, and there shouldn't be any change. Lots more very specific questions about involvement and license specifics. And again, for any of those, we'll take a snapshot of all the asked and we'll be in touch to ask those very specific questions.
Product specific for David, so we'd have to get the account manager in touch.
multi-user licenses that don't expire until August, you just want to understand that we don't need to make any action now. That is absolutely right. Your action point, if your renewal is in August, will be August. So at the point of your renewal, when your renewal is due, or potentially up to 90 days before that, because of course you can trade in 90 days early, you can take the 2-for-1 trade-in instead of renewing. Now, the way I understand it, if you take the 2-for-1 trade-in, even if you renew it early, similarly to how M2S used to be done, is that you won't actually, the new licenses, the 2-for-1 trade-in will more than likely start on the date of your renewal. So it'll be a new contract starting on the date of your end date. So if you end on the 3rd of August, then that's the date that your 2-for-1 will start.
Query from David Simpson about FlexLM. So the question is, if FlexLM is being retired, how will this affect other plugins like ID8 that also use FlexLM? I guess to push the point there, David, FlexLM is not an Autodesk technology. FlexLM is third party and it's used by many other software vendors, as you've correctly said, in the states over the world. So FlexLM as a piece of software will continue. It's just that Autodesk are discontinuing their multi-user licenses. They're retiring them, and therefore they will not have the need for the Autodesk licenses to use FlexLM. The likelihood is that your third-party plugins like ID8, for example, will continue to use FlexLM, and that will have no effect on your Revit licenses, which will obviously, if you continue using them, be moved across to the single-user licenses as per Simon's presentation.
A great questions come in from Ian about user licenses being taken away from users working back in the field. So the whole idea of this technology, this move towards named user model, is that, you know, essentially what you'll be doing is assigning your users with the licenses that they need. Now, under the license agreement, named user licenses have access to use that software on up to 3 devices, you know, wherever they are, as long as they're logged in as the same person. In other words, if I am assigned a license of Revit, say, I can work at home as long as I'm logged in as me, and I can work, you know, on a laptop and my work machine. Now, I'm not allowed to run them at the same time, but I physically cannot be in 3 places at the same time. But meaning that I can, you know, as long as I have access to the license, I can install it wherever I want.
And I guess that point also asks some of the questions that we've had about how the new model makes managing licenses easier. You no longer need to have requesting previous versions, requesting old versions, waiting for an old version serial number to ping through. You have one license. That license can be installed by that user on up to 3 devices for that user, so that they have a desktop in the office they can log into and work on that during working hours. If they go on site with a Surface Pro, they would just log in and use that Surface Pro on site. If they have an iPad at home and they want to use AutoCAD Mobile or something, again, they just use exactly the same single sign-on using their Autodesk account on that device. So whilst absolutely being a technical person myself, I appreciate that there are some administrative changes to having a central license pool. I think once you've got around the initial user setup, which we'll talk through on a later webinar, the actual managing and administration of those licenses moving forward does become a little bit simpler when you look at the wider picture.
Yeah, so can I redistribute my licenses? Absolutely. So the contract manager or software coordinator is in charge of administering the users and assigning software to their users. If you're using single user licenses already, you already do this. So it's a case of, I've got a new user, I enter them into the portal, I assign them a product design collection, and away they go. Of course, that means that if that user leaves the business, it is very important for contract managers or software coordinators to unassign the licenses from that user. Ultimately, if that user is then freelancing for another company and working somewhere else, then ultimately that's your license, your responsibility to ensure that isn't happening. So perhaps what I've advised over the years for a lot of clients to do is, as part of staff leaving or moving on to different businesses, it becomes important to put in a process to revoke their access from Autodesk software via the portal. And you can redistribute licenses in that portal. So if you need to move a license from one user to another, you can do that. One of the advantages I've also seen there is going to be with the premium plan coming in June, they're going to allow access to import user lists and import access rights. So I think more to be discovered on that, but we'll let you know as soon as we've got more information.
Yeah, and I guess to build on that point a little bit, there was a question about redistributing the machines that the licenses are attached to. Remember, these licenses should be attached to users and not shared machines. So it is a user license and not a machine-based license. We had another question relating to that about using LT between Windows and a Mac. So you subscribe to LT, that allows you to either download and install it on a Mac or download and install it on a PC. The licensing is the same. So to answer your question, yes, you would subscribe to AutoCAD, or in your case, LT. You could log in on that on Windows in the office, and you could go home and log in on that on your iMac or your Mac Pro or whatever it is that you've got using the same license. Yes. Question about product design suite from David. Good morning, David. As a single user of product design suite, will I still have access to all of the same software packages as I currently use? So the product design and manufacturing collection, which is the latest and greatest version, I guess, if you like, of that suite. Autodesk made the transition to collections from suites a number of years back. But dependent on the version of the PDS that you have, whether it's Ultimate or Premium or Standard, the PDMC will come with the same amount, if not more, pieces of software. So you'll still get AutoCAD, you'll still get Inventor, you'll still get Vault Basic, you'll still get Navisworks. I'm trying to think if there is any exceptions, which I'll have to come back to you on.
Well, I know the answer to that, Robin. The answer is there's no exceptions. So what they basically did when they moved to Product Design and Manufacturing Collection was incorporated what used to be the Product Design Suite Ultimate and what used to be the Factory Design Suite Ultimate. They combined them together, and then they also added HSM, or as it's now called, Inventor CAM, so the ability to do CNC machining straight from Inventor, and they also added Nastran. So the answer to your actual question, David, is will you have the same software? Yes, and even more than you already have.
Question from Oliver. Morning, Oliver. So mentioning that people can be in different places at the same time using virtual machines or virtual desktops, so on and so forth. So it depends if you're using Citrix licenses at the moment or if you're using typical multi-user licenses, but the way that Autodesk virtualization is compliant nowadays is only using single user licenses. So you can still work through remote desktop, you can still work through virtual desktop and virtual machines, so on and so forth, but the users have to have their own user-based named license to be able to jump onto different machines and log on using their Autodesk account. There are a few if, buts, and maybes around it, which we can take those questions offline and answer them for you. So if you're rendering on one machine, for example, and you're logged into 3ds Max on that machine, and that's rendering away, and you want to then continue drawing on another machine, for example, there are discussion points to be had around that. 3ds Max, for example, allows you to have node-based rendering where you can just use something like Backburner, which doesn't take a Max license to produce the render. But there are all sorts of different if, buts, and maybes that I suggest we take offline for those questions.
Really good question from Lance about Vault. So exactly the same, Lance. So if you're currently running network or multi-user licenses of Vault Workgroup or Professional, then at the time of renewal, you're going to have the option of a 2-for-1 trade-in for single named user licenses. Exactly the same.
Couple more questions about requirement of internet. So are the licenses stored locally or over the internet? They're all software as a service, so all the licenses are stored in the Autodesk cloud, if you like. So as I said earlier, licenses will require at least a ping to the Autodesk network licensing services once every 14 days. So if you're out of the country for 2 weeks, you'll need to make sure that that license ping happens either just before you go, or you'll need to just jump onto the internet for it to do a quick ping whilst you're offline or out of the office. You know, if you can work without an internet connection for up to 14 days, but it does need to ping at least once. Now, that's as of now in current single user licenses. Whether that will change with these larger base changes, obviously we will keep you all informed the best we can.
There are a few other questions, but I'm also conscious of keeping you all for too long because, you know, I said this would be about half an hour, and actually we're now into 50 minutes. If you do have questions, please, my email address is on the screen, as is Nathan's. Please drop me an email. For those of you that know me, just come to me direct. We'll try and answer any of these questions that we haven't managed to answer today. We'll try and come back to you direct. But I think it's probably best that we wrap up and we'll put the recording, make sure it's visible to you so you can download it at a later date. But please do look at our website and reach out. I'd say the final thing is, we've got a lot of experience, and we'd be happy to run discovery sessions on your personalized situation and try and work out a plan for you, whether that's me or your individual representative from Man and Machine. So please reach out, and we'll come back to you and work out a plan for you. But thank you all for your time. I really appreciate you spending this time. I know it's a confusing topic and there's lots of questions, and I may have made you form even more questions than you had before, but hopefully we'll be able to help you find a way forward. But thank you all for all your time.